welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another round of my Choose Your Own Adventure vlog series. Now, if you weren't here for the last one, essentially I am taking books off of my physical TBR and I'm finally reading them in one video. And to make it a little bit more fun, I'm going to be doing it in a way that's interactive, in a way that is a game. So essentially, in this video, I'm going to be reading 2 books to the 50% mark, and then at the end of this video, you get to pick which book between these 2 you think will be my favorite, and which book I guess technically you want to hear more about. And 2 videos will be awaiting you at the end of this one, and you get to pick which one you want to hear more about. If you pick correctly, there will be more videos greeting you from there. Now, I know this sounds a little bit more complex than it probably should be, but once you get started, you will totally understand it. Honestly, just kind of a good time. I had a really fun time doing this last time, and I'm excited to do it again this time. As you can tell by the title of this video, I decided to make this a little bit more summary, and I decided that I was going to read all of the books that I own that have beautiful sunshine covers. So anything that looks like it might be exciting or cheery, or anything with a little bit of like yellow on the cover. So that's kind of what made me select these books. I read 8 books for this video, or like series of videos, and y'all get to play along with me as I read these 8 books. So without further ado, let's get into the vlog portion of this video. Okay, so this is kind of fun. Our main character Helena is trying to avoid her marriage to this guy named the Duke of Lusk. Honestly, can't remember his first name. I don't know if we ever actually get his first name, but she is doing anything she can to avoid marriage to this man. She's been doing it for 5 years. Their parents just want them to get married so that they can form this limestone alliance, I think. His parents are like limestone people. They want to use her parents' land to obtain said limestone, and so it's just gonna be a magical time if they get married, right? Except for he's kind of stupid and she doesn't want to marry him, and that has created a lot of problems for our dear Helena. So we open up the story and she is trying to do everything in her power still to avoid marrying him, but it is becoming more and more of an impending problem. But lo and behold, we have our main man Declan, who is going to make this marriage happen. He's propositioned by the uncle of the Duke that Helena is supposed to marry. This uncle is like, hey, I need this marriage to happen. I can tell that Helena is trying to thwart things, so I need you to come and be her valet slash driver. I can't remember exactly like what his role is, but he is supposed to like escort her around town. He is gonna like spy on her and make sure that she like stays in line and, you know, all that good stuff. So he's kind of her bodyguard in this situation. It's sort of a forbidden bodyguard romance, if you will. Besides the setup being really fun, the banter and the overall writing of the story is just a lot of fun to play around with. It reminds me a lot of some of the more exciting Tessa Dare titles, specifically the one with the red cover. I think it might be Romancing the Duke. I can't remember the title of it, but it's one of the Castle Ever After books. This kind of has the same playfulness, which I'm actually really enjoying. That can be kind of hit or miss for me when it comes to historicals, but in this case, I'm actually quite enjoying it. Kind of excited to see where things go. Right now, Helena has told Declan her plan. They've had this kind of like truce moment where she's like, hey, I don't want to marry this man. I'm trying to find him someone else to marry, so I don't have to marry him. That is part of Helena's plan, which I didn't say previously, but she's like, yeah, please don't make me marry this man. But Declan is kind of like torn, because if he does not help the Duke's uncle succeed in making these 2 marry, then he is going to be left with no money and he might have to go back to jail. He was plucked from jail for this particular job, so it's pretty imperative that he make things happen. And honestly, I do kind of like the fact that we know this from the very beginning and that it's not a secret. I think that's one of my irritations with a lot of romance, when they're high stakes, but you don't really know what the stakes are. And in this case, I like from the very beginning we're laid out kind of what is happening. Maybe that's too straightforward for some people, but I prefer that. Going into a story, kind of knowing the setup and knowing what the characters have at their chest, like what's most important to them. I like to know that ahead of time, so I like the way that the story is kind of set up. I will say I'm a little worried though, because Helena has told Declan her plan, but Declan has not said, hey, I'm supposed to help you get married to this man. And I'm wondering if he's gonna withhold that from her for the whole book. I don't know if I like that like whole miscommunication, I'm actually betraying you thing, but I'm assuming that he's gonna like have to fight his attraction for her, and that's gonna be like the main plot of the story. He's like trying to fight his attraction, but also the fact that like he doesn't want to go back to jail. I mean, the tension and the stakes are there, which I appreciate, and overall the writing is just really fun. So I'm curious to see what antics Helena gets up to over the next like few percentages of this book. I feel like the last time I did this, the first 2 books were pretty cut and dry, like one was clearly better than the other, but I know that I like Joanna Shupe, so I'm like, how are we going to fare between this book and that book? Also, they're both historicals, whereas in the last episode that I did of this, or the last version of this, I did like a YA fantasy versus a historical, so I felt like again there was like more contrast. I don't know about this one compared to the Heiress Hunt. Like I don't know how I'm gonna be able to pick between the 2 and how you're gonna pick between the 2, but I do have a little bit more reading to do. I don't know if I'm gonna update you again before the 50% mark. Probably not, because I want to keep this short and sweet and fun. So far I'm having a really good time. Okay, so I lied about updating you at 50%. I'm only like 1% farther than I was when I last talked to you. Okay, mixed feelings, because they're making out now all of a sudden, and by them I mean
Declan and Helena, and I'm like, it's a little fast for that, but I am liking the interaction itself. Like the talking that they're doing, I'm liking. He definitely is giving me himbo vibes, and I didn't really say that before, but I wanted to make note of it in case you're looking for a book with like a lovable himbo. I also like the fact that there's sort of like a class difference between the two of them. He is, I don't know, like he doesn't have like any class title, and she is very like educated and very smart. He's more like street smart, and I kind of like the dynamic there. I think it's actually kind of fun. It's not something I see, I feel like, a lot in historical. I feel like usually if anyone is like of a lower class, it's usually the woman. For some reason, I'm thinking about that like second Bridgerton book, the second one or the third one, I don't know, whatever the Cinderella retelling one is. That one I hated because he was just like, sleep with me, I don't want to marry you. This one is much more enjoyable, and I am liking the dynamic between the two of them. So I'm like a little annoyed that they're getting frisky so soon, but also I like that she's like kind of taking charge. She's like, yeah, this is happening, and he's like, no, we can't do this, and she's like, no, like we definitely should. So it's cute, it's definitely cute, but withholding judgment.
Okay, my hair is looking a mess, but I have a lot of shit going on today, and I can't be bothered. Okay, I'm 50% into A Duchess a Day, and I still don't know how to feel, and I really feel like this is going to be the toughest version of this game that I've ever played. I don't know why I'm doing two historicals back to back. Honestly, it sounded good in the moment, and now I'm just like, I don't know. Things have picked up quite a bit. We have Declan and Helena continuing to flirt, continuing to get in these situations where any like spare moment they have, they're kind of like getting frisky. They haven't like consummated their love or attraction yet, but you know, they've like made out a little bit, they've like bumped and grinded in corners, in alleys, whatever. And we're getting more of a storyline now because obviously we know Helena is trying to find a man for the Duke of Lusk so she doesn't have to marry him, but we're also getting actual introduction into these women. And we're getting this idea that Helena has put together that she is going to bring all of these like women who, you know, might be eligible or might be suitable for the Duke of Lusk, bring them all together and then having him basically like pick one of them. And I don't think I mentioned earlier, but this is a Snow White and the Huntsman retelling. Huntsman's Declan, she is Snow White, and then the women that Helena is trying to bring to the Duke of Lusk, they are like the seven dwarves essentially. She calls one of them Doc, one of them Sleepy, whatever, and it's kind of cute. Like I kind of appreciate that touch, but I don't know about the story as a whole. I do still like the banter between Declan and Helena. I just don't know that like this format of story is really working for me. Again, like the banter's fun, and at the end of the day, I think I'll have enjoyed this book. I just don't know that this is going to be like favorite historical romance of all time type situation. There's just not enough relationship development between Declan and Helena for me to really just like care. So at the moment, I'm kind of undecided about this one, and I'm hoping that when I pick up the Heiress Hunt, I'm not having the same issue. I'm hoping that it's a very clear cut, like this is really, really good, or I really hate this. This is just like, there's doing a lot of stuff that I like, it's just not perfect. And not every book has to be perfect, right? But I was just expecting maybe a touch more, and or more of like an intellectual, not depth, but like kind of for Declan. I want him to like be more and to have more to say. And I also want Helena to show more of her personality because she's obviously so dead set on not marrying the Duke of Lusk, and she's really into nature. She wants to plant apples, but like we don't truly know her very well. So this is reading very surface level. So I think if you're just like wanting to pick something up fun in the summer, like this would definitely be it. I just don't know if this is going to be like the one between this one and the Heiress Hunt. So I guess we shall see. It's interesting because it's kind of a similar concept. I started the first couple of pages so I could, you know, read the first 50% of that one too. And I'm a couple pages in, and I'll update you guys obviously once I'm further in to the Joanna Shoup book, but it's got kind of a similar concept. I think it's a guy who is kind of like not down on his luck. His family is down on their luck, and they've always kind of hated him, but they have brought him back and are like, hey, you need to marry an heiress to save the company. And he is very resistant to this idea. So I'm curious to see how that one compares to this, since it's got at least some shared similarities. So at 50% mark, this is kind of where I'm leaving it, and you guys get to decide after I read the first 50% of the Heiress Hunt, like if you want me to continue on and read this book, and if you think this is going to just like come out and surprise me and like be a great book. That's where I'm at. I am gonna go wash my car because I'm trying to sell it tomorrow, and then I'm gonna go return this pillow that I bought online that didn't work for me. And honestly, I'm kind of proud of that because I'm not good at returning things. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'll be back and we can talk about this Joanna Shoup book. Okay, I'm like 15% into the Heiress Hunt, and I think I like it. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that it is reading extremely easy, and I do actually kind of like the characters. So I told you guys a little bit earlier about what the story was kind of set up as, and I was correct basically on everything I told you. The story is about our hero Harrison, whose family has kind of treated him poorly over the years. He is, I think, the second son of, you know, like this wealthy tycoon, and his brother Thomas has been the one who has gotten all of the attention, affection, and has been set up to be kind of like the heir to the throne. Harrison, on the other hand, has been very like looked down upon and treated unfairly. So he decides that he's gonna go hang out in Paris for a few years. I don't really know exactly what all he got up to, but he has kind of this like rake reputation now that he has gone to Paris for 3 years. But he has returned, I believe, to New York and is on the hunt for a wife, because when he came back to the US at the insistence of his family, they tell him that if he wants any of his like inheritance, or if he wants any money basically from the family, he needs to marry really rich so that he can save the family, because they have fallen on hard times. Thomas has kind of squandered the family's money. You know, his dad's intention to like have Thomas be the hotshot didn't really work out. But Harrison is on the hunt for an heiress. He wants to marry well for himself. I think his intention is not really to help his family, but to marry an heiress and be like, fuck y'all, I know that's what you wanted, but guess what? I'm not actually gonna help you. Like, I think that's how the story is gonna go. But it's kind of tricky because his friend Maddie, his childhood friend Maddie, who he's always kind of had a thing for, she sets him up with a bunch of her friends at this like party that we're in right now. Harrison kind of just wants to marry Maddie. I think that's like his ultimate goal. But we haven't gotten a lot from Harrison's perspective on how much he actually likes Maddie and on why he actually wants to marry her. And I'm kind of feeling the same way about Maddie. I feel like she is also supposed to kind of have a thing for Harrison, since it's a childhood friends to lovers story. Like, that's the trope that's built here. But I'm not noticing a lot of interaction between the two of them. I mean, they are interacting, but I'm not seeing a lot of like attraction and like why I should be rooting for them to get together. We have had a few hints of like, oh, we used to do this together growing up, which is nice. I do appreciate that inclusion, because a lot of the times whenever authors try to do childhood friends to lovers, there's not enough context given, not enough backstory, and I can tell that Joanna Shupe is trying to do that. We're not fully there yet, and granted, we're only 15% into the story, so I'm not expecting like to instantly fall in love with these characters. I'm wanting just a touch more. This looks so funny. I'm wanting a touch more context. I am also kind of liking Harrison's friend Kit. I feel like Kit is going to be one of the heroes of the next books in the series. This is the first book in a series. I don't remember the name of it. I'll put it right here. I like that. I like when the hero's best friend is not a complete douchebag, so that's much appreciated. But I'm interested to see kind of what hijinks ensue, and if Harrison will pursue any of these women to like make Maddie jealous or what. Oh, I forgot to note too that Maddie has someone she is currently engaged to, or not currently engaged to, that she is hoping to become engaged to. This Duke, that was who Maddie had her sights set on a while ago. She decided she was going to play tennis for a couple of years, like for her first 2 seasons out, and then she was going to settle down, and now it's like her time to settle down. She's waiting for this proposal from this Duke, so I think that's kind of what is keeping her from going for Harrison. She's like, I don't know if he's really the best choice. She doesn't think that he actually likes her, so I know a lot about the story, clearly. And again, it's reading very easy, because I feel like sometimes when I'm reading historical romance, it can be kind of hard to get into, but that's not really the case with this book, and I've noticed that's kind of been my luck with Joanna Shupe books, so I'm gonna continue reading. I'll update you guys just as I go. I don't know that I'll update you right at the 50% mark, but I'll keep you posted if anything juicy happens. So it's been about a month since I last updated this vlog. I know I said that this book is, you know, so easy to get into and so easy to read, but I promptly just kind of forgot about this book after I set it down for a little while. It's just not the most memorable, and now that I am finally at the 50% mark, I can say with some certainty that I don't think this is going to be a 5-star read for me. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's just not really, it's not doing it for me. So Maddie and Harrison, they do have this chemistry that I feel like is very raw, very passionate, and it's something that I'm very into, because I feel like a lot of times in historical romances, there's this sort of like tentativeness with the passion aspect, and I like when a historical is just really willing to go there, not having like a love at first sight situation, but having this like sexual tension being built as the story carries on, and this one's no exception, but I just don't think that's enough to save it. So when we last spoke, I said that Maddie was going to potentially become engaged to a Duke. He's the Duke of Lockwood, I believe, and she does end up becoming betrothed to him at this party that everybody is at. Now, Harrison is clearly not cool with that, because he wants to marry Maddie, have her for himself. So there is this time period in which Harrison is trying to woo Maddie and get her to essentially break up her engagement with the Duke of Lockwood. And Maddie is not really on board with this for a lot of reasons, primarily because the Duke, when he proposed, also promised that he would help her tennis career and build a tennis court at his like ducal estate. So obviously he cares about her and her passions, even if they don't have like a passionate love themselves. On top of that, she just has been setting herself up for this kind of future her entire life. Like, whether or not she has these strong feelings towards Harrison, she has promised herself to this man, and she really wants to carry through that promise. I mean, she's been trying to become a duchess essentially for at least a year, I think more like 2 years at this point. It's kind of annoying that Harrison is trying so hard to get at her. Usually I'd find it charming, but in this case I just am not super charmed, and then things get really hairy because
Harrison and Maddie are caught in a kind of compromising situation. They end up like making out on a gazebo and then coming in to the, estate that everybody is at, just soaking wet with rain, and someone comes across them, and since she's a gossip, obviously, she ends up telling Maddie's father that she has been caught in this compromising situation. Maddie is called into his office the next day and is told that her engagement with the Duke of Lockwood is off and now she has to marry Harrison instead. I mean, perfect setup, I guess, in sort of like a weird twisted way, but I just don't like that we're taking the agency away from Maddie in this situation. Like, I just don't find that cute, and I'm finding that to be a recurring theme in Joanna Shupe books. Now, I don't think there's like a right or a wrong way to feel about romance heroes and heroines. I mean, some I think are more explicitly toxic than others, but I feel like in this kind of situation, I can understand why people would be charmed rather than upset, because Harrison, like, he wasn't intending to ruin Maddie and or try to force her into a marriage. However, he was doing things that he knew were not appropriate given the situation. I think he could have done more to get her to call off the engagement without putting her in compromising situations. I don't know. I'm just not loving the setup. I'm not liking that in this case, Maddie is having to compromise and kind of give up a lot of her agency to be with Harrison. And on top of that, I don't think we're getting enough context for their romance. Like, there definitely is that passion there, and I am liking that, but where is the background? Y'all were friends for so long before this. Where are the flashbacks? Where is the inside jokes? Like, I'm just not getting any of that, and I think that is really hindering my enjoyment of this romance. And at this 50% mark, I just don't know where to go from here. I don't know if I'm really going to like A Duchess a Day, or if I'm really going to like The Heiress Hunt. Like, I'm just sort of about these. Like, if I had to rate both of these at this point, I think I'd give them both 3 stars. I just don't know. This has never really happened to me before, I have to say. I've just never really been in a position where I feel like I just don't know about either of these books, but maybe y'all know me better than I know myself, and maybe y'all can select which book you think I'm going to enjoy more. And I guess we'll see who's right, because this one's a tough one. So if you want to see me continue with A Duchess a Day, and you think this is the book that is going to carry you on to more books, pick this one. And if you think that I'm going to end up really just liking The Heiress Hunt, and you can watch the vlog for that one. But here are your options. Let's go.